Hey everybody, it's raining again. So if you guys want to see, you know, it's coming down. Oh, really can't even see almost. But yeah, so there's that. So I figured now would be a good time to tell you one of our sailing adventures. So if any of you have ever seen the movie The Perfect Storm or The Guardian, I have lived those. Both of those, in fact. Just not on the same type of vessel. So, for those of you that don't know, I grew up on a sailboat. Like, not a yacht, not, a luxury boat, a sailboat. Like with sails and stuff. And a steering wheel. And, like, this was a ocean-going vessel. Approximately 52 tons. And it was called a double ender, which is basically like both ends of the boat are pointed, which there aren't very many of those left, and this was a Hirschoff design. So there's only a few of these models in the world. The person that created them came from Europe. So anyway, me and my family, we were coming back from the Bahamas, and normally before you make a large ocean crossing, there is, you have to listen to the radio to get the NOAA weather radio station to give you a 3-day clear weather forecast, because the crossing from the Bahamas to the U.S. requires crossing through the Gulfstream. The Gulfstream, for those of you that don't know, is this long thing. If y'all don't watch the weather at all, it's this long piece of the ocean that travels up and down on the eastern seaboard. And the more south you go, the further it is out from land. And then the more north you go, the closer it is to land. Now, again, for those of you that don't know, a sailboat travels, its speed is measured in knots. Not miles per hour, knots. Like, to go 6 knots would be like 3 miles an hour, barely. If you're really clipping along, with all the sails up and the engine running, and you manage to, make 12 knots, and you'd be going 6 whole miles an hour, which will seem like pretty fast on a sailboat, and the entire sailboat will be leaning on its side, basically, to where you could lean your head over and taste the salt water. It's that close. So, the Gulfstream has 2 settings. It's calm days. It moves at roughly about 3 knots on its calm days. And on its calm days, it's just rolling waves. They're called rollers. These rollers are approximately anywhere from 72 to 112 feet tall. Yes, that's correct. So, the only difference between rollers and rollers don't break at the top. So when your sailboat goes up the roller, it'll go, and then the wave will come back down behind the boat and push the boat. That's it. That's all. So if you have a weak stomach, probably not the best for you. So on a bad day, you don't want to catch the bad day. And that's precisely what we did. So our boat has a diesel Westerbeek engine in it. And this engine is not very powerful. But so our engine, while we were in the Bahamas, our engine broke. And the Bahamian mechanics were not helpful whatsoever, because they're just not helpful. I'll tell you about that later in the phrase that comes with them. So our engine didn't work. So all we had was our sails. And we got a 3-day forecast that was clear. Almost a 4-day. And so when we started, there was almost little to no wind leaving Grand Bahama Banks. And so we sailed a little bit, and then we drifted until the wind would catch our sails again, and then we'd sail a little bit more, and then we'd drift a little bit more. So this continued for quite a ways until we had gotten so far out that we had made it out the inlet. I say inlet because they're all islands. There's technically no inlet. They're surrounded by the ocean. There's no inlet. They're just surrounded by ocean. And we couldn't see land anymore. And we could tell that we were starting to get into the Gulfstream. So we were drifting in the Gulfstream. And we encountered what is known as a doldrum period. Basically means there's no wind. There's a story behind that. There's a whole history lesson. I'll give that another time as well, if you don't already know about the English and the doldrums. So we had no wind for like several hours. Several hours had passed, and we drifted north quite a ways. So far, in fact, that the weather forecast was no longer viable. So there was a storm that was approaching. It was not wasting time. It came on us fast. And it was out of the northwest. It's like one of the nastiest winds that you can possibly get. And we were in the Gulfstream. The worst place you could possibly be for a northwestern wind. The reason why a northwestern is so bad is because it comes from an angle. And since we were going north, wind coming from the north makes it really difficult to stay upright and not lean to the side. Also, the winds were blowing at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. It's pretty rough. I know, y'all see hurricane winds. It's like 50 to 70 miles per hour winds. 15 to 20 in the Gulfstream is bad. It's extremely bad. So, me and my family, we prepped for the worst. Even though there is no way for us to have prepped for the worst. So basically, the wind picked up and the rollers turned into white caps. So this is an extremely dangerous thing because you know how I said When you go up the wave and go down to the bottom, the wave will come behind you and push you as a roller. As a white cap, it breaks over you, kind of like you see on the beach, where the waves will break as they roll in. This is highly dangerous for any vessel. So we were officially taking on water. So we immediately called the Coast Guard. It took them forever to get to us. Our boat was almost sunk. We were all four of us. My mom, my dad, me, and my sister. We were all in the cockpit of our sailboat. And it looked like we were going to die. It basically looked like we were going to die. Like, it didn't look like we were going to make it. Our entire boat was flooded. We were basically just strapped in to like the cockpit, which is basically like where the steering wheel is and everything, except we didn't have a steering wheel. We had a rudder, which is basically a long stick, a long wooden stick that's attached to, like, you know, something that steers you on the back, and that's called a rudder. And we were just strapped in, like we were bungee corded in. And we had planned it that way because if you get lost in the Gulfstream, they're not finding you. You're gone. You're dead. You're gone. That's it. End of the line. No more second chances. You're gone. You're toast. So the best idea was to keep ourselves with the sailboat. So we were about up to here with water. And every now and again, we'd bounce upward or float upward, and we'd take a gasp of air and we'd come back down. This lasted for about 25 to 30 minutes. And then the Coast Guard finally came with a really, really large assault ship. I'll just call it a ship because that thing was massive. And they also came with 2 helicopters. The helicopters were the ones that rescued me, my sister, and my mom, and my dad. And the ship dragged our sailboat out of the water, basically, but wasn't able to drain it because of how much water it had inside of it. So we got taken all the way back because we were close to where I'm at now, like in South Carolina, except we were on the coast near Port Royal, which, if you don't know where that is, it's somewhere near Charleston. Also kind of close to Myrtle, like maybe about 45 minutes in the opposite direction. So, but we got taken all the way back to Fort Pierce, Florida, where they drained our sailboat and they put us up in a hotel. And in hindsight, I don't even know how we repaired the boat. I guess my mom had insurance on the sailboat or something. But I couldn't think of any other way that our sailboat would have been saved. All our belongings were destroyed. We were lucky to be alive. So, if you're ever making a trip in a sailboat or a powerboat, make sure that you are prepared. Make sure that you have an engine, more like. So, if you need to, you can turn around if something happens, or at least stay on course so you know that you're following your forecast. Yeah, because what we did was not good, and I don't wish that on anyone. So there's your little bit of sailing knowledge. If you have any questions about our sailing life as I go along with stories, mostly of me on land, but some of them will be on the water. Just let me know, and I'll answer to the best of my ability what I know. Well, that's it for now. Talk to y'all later. Draco out.